My name is Rebecca. I'm 36 years old, and I've always believed that family should come before anything else. Maybe that's why what happened last month still feels like a wound that won't close. It started out so simply. My daughter Emily was turning 7. She's the sweetest, most imaginative little girl you could meet, the kind who draws rainbows on the fridge and writes, "I love you, Mom," on sticky notes she hides in my purse. For weeks she'd been talking about her birthday party, how she wanted her cousins there, her grandparents, her aunts and uncles. She even made little paper invitations herself with glitter and crayons. I remember watching her tiny fingers struggle with the glue stick, her tongue poking out in concentration, and thinking, this is what happiness looks like. I sent out digital invites to everyone in my family, even double-checked that everyone received them. Everyone said yes. My parents promised to come early and help set up. My brother and his wife said they'd bring snacks. My sister said she'd pick up balloons on her way. Emily was glowing with excitement. She kept asking me every morning, "Mommy, how many sleeps until my party?" And every time I'd smile and count the days with her. But when the day finally came, something I never expected happened. That morning, the sun was bright, the kind of golden morning that makes everything seem possible. Emily woke up before me, already dressed in her sparkly pink dress, hair tangled but eyes sparkling. "They're coming soon, right, Mommy?" she asked, hopping around the kitchen as I iced her cake. "Of course, sweetheart," I told her, though a strange pit had formed in my stomach. It wasn't that anyone had canceled, but the group chat had been strangely quiet the night before. Still, I pushed the doubt aside. People get busy. Maybe they'd surprise her. By noon, the backyard was decorated with pastel streamers, unicorn plates, and a bounce house my neighbor helped set up. I stood by the window, checking my phone every few minutes. No new messages. No cars pulling up. No laughter down the driveway. At first, I thought maybe traffic was bad. Then, when it was nearly 2 hours past the start time, I knew something was wrong. Emily's smile started to fade. She kept asking where everyone was, her little hands clutching her party hat. I told her maybe they were running late, maybe there was a mix-up. But as the minutes dragged into hours, she sat by the table, untouched cake in front of her, whispering, "Maybe they forgot." That sentence broke me. My daughter, 7 years old, sat surrounded by balloons, gifts she'd wrapped for her cousins, and a cake she'd helped bake, wondering why no one had come. I texted my family again, one by one. "Hey, are you on your way? Everything okay?" I even called my mom. No answer. I left voicemails that went straight to voicemail, then finally stopped when my hands started shaking. I felt embarrassed, angry, and above all, helpless. My neighbors, seeing the empty driveway, tried to help cheer Emily up. Their kids came over, we sang happy birthday anyway, and I pretended everything was fine. But that night, after I tucked her into bed, she asked me softly, "Mom, did I do something wrong?" And I just hugged her until she fell asleep. That was the moment something inside me hardened. Because I realized it wasn't an accident. They didn't forget. They chose not to come. The next morning, I checked my messages again, expecting maybe an apology, or at least an explanation. Nothing. Days passed, and then, out of nowhere, my mother texted me, not about the missed party, but asking if I could lend her $1,850 for some urgent family expenses. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just a request, as if nothing had happened. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, anger boiling up. I typed back one word. "No," within minutes, she called me, her voice sharp, accusing. "How dare you talk to your own mother like that?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She hadn't shown up for her granddaughter's birthday, hadn't called to say sorry, and now she was guilt-tripping me for not giving her money? I tried to stay calm. I told her, "You all ignored Emily's party. You made her cry. And now you're asking me for money?" She hung up. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 2 days later, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to see two uniformed police officers standing on my porch. My stomach dropped. One of them asked, "Are you Rebecca Collins?" I nodded, confused. "We received a report regarding a financial dispute," he said. Your mother claims you owe her $1,850 and refused to pay. I actually laughed out loud at the absurdity of it. But the laughter quickly turned to humiliation as my neighbors peeked out their windows. Emily came running to the door, her eyes wide. I sent her upstairs before I spoke. I explained everything: the missed party, the ignored calls, the sudden demand for money. The officers listened, one even shaking his head, clearly uncomfortable. They left after realizing it was a family manipulation, but the damage was done. My mother had actually called the police on me because I said no. That night, as I sat on the couch, scrolling through old photos of Emily's party decorations, the sadness was replaced with something else, a cold, focused clarity. I realized my family wasn't just selfish. They were toxic. And this time, I wasn't going to let them hurt my daughter again. The next few days after the police incident felt like living in a fog of disbelief. I kept replaying every moment of that birthday in my mind, trying to figure out where I went wrong, if I'd said something, done something that pushed my family away. But deep down, I knew the truth. It wasn't me. My family had always been complicated, and I'd spent my whole life trying to earn their approval. My mom, in particular, had this way of making everything about her. When I was younger, she'd always compare me to my siblings. My brother Michael was the successful one, my sister Jenna, the pretty one. And me? I was the irresponsible one, the one who picked up the pieces when everyone else messed up. I took care of Mom when Dad left, watched over Michael's kids when his wife walked out, helped Jenna pay rent when she got laid off. I never asked for anything in return. I just wanted to belong, to be loved, or at least appreciated. But that birthday party made me realize something brutal. I was only valuable to them when they needed me. I started distancing myself. I didn't call, didn't text. When my mom tried to guilt-trip me again, saying, "You can't just cut off your family," I replied, "I didn't. You cut me off the moment you decided my daughter didn't matter." That hit her hard. She didn't respond after that, and honestly, the silence felt peaceful. For once, I could breathe without constantly trying to fix everyone else's problems. I focused on Emily. We started doing little things together: movie nights, baking cookies, even going to the park without worrying about who would judge us. But peace doesn't last long when people like my mother are involved. 2 weeks later, I got an email from my brother, Michael. It was short, cold, and full of condescension. He wrote, "Mom says you've lost your mind. She's only trying to help you, but you're being dramatic as usual. Can you just apologize and pay her back? It's not that big of a deal." Not that big of a deal? My daughter sat alone on her birthday while they all pretended she didn't exist. And I'm the dramatic one? Something inside me snapped when I read that. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I sat down and began writing everything. Every instance of emotional manipulation, every time I'd bailed them out, every promise they'd broken. I realized this wasn't just about the birthday party. It was years of me being the family's emotional punching bag. That night, I drafted a long message, not to them but to myself. It was a promise. I will never again let anyone make my daughter feel unloved. I will never again beg for respect. Then I did something I'd never done before. I blocked all their numbers. My hands trembled as I hit block, one by one. It felt wrong and liberating at the same time. Like I was finally stepping out of a shadow I didn't even realize I'd been living under. The next morning, Emily and I went to a local cafe for breakfast. As we sat there, she smiled and said, "Mommy, you're not sad anymore." I smiled back, trying to hide the tears welling up. "No, baby," I whispered, "I'm not sad anymore." But that calm didn't last. Because when people like my family lose control over you, they don't walk away quietly. They retaliate. A week later, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was Jenna, my sister. She didn't even say hello. She went straight to, "You think you're better than us now, huh? Acting like a victim online, making Mom look bad." My stomach twisted. "What are you talking about?" I asked. She scoffed. "Don't play dumb. Everyone saw your post." I froze. What post? I had only written that private letter to myself. Then it hit me. Emily had uploaded a small clip from her birthday on my Facebook profile days ago, a sweet little video of her blowing out candles with the caption, "Even if no one came, Mommy made it special." My heart dropped. That tiny post had apparently gone viral among my relatives. They took it as a public insult, a way of me shaming them. The truth was, I hadn't meant for anyone to see it beyond friends. But my family's guilt twisted it into something ugly, Jenna went on, her voice dripping with resentment. "You humiliated us, Rebecca. Do you have any idea how this makes Mom look?" That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. Maybe she should have thought about how Emily looked, sitting alone on her birthday, before worrying about how she looks online. There was a long silence, then a muttered curse before she hung up. I sat there for a moment, my heart pounding, my hands shaking, but also lighter. Because for once, I wasn't apologizing. For once, I was standing my ground. Later that night, I tucked Emily in again. She asked, "Mom, are Grandma and Aunt Jenna still mad?" I kissed her forehead and said, "Maybe, sweetheart. But sometimes people get mad when you tell the truth. That doesn't mean we did the wrong thing." She nodded, sleepy but understanding in her own little way. That night, as I looked at her sleeping face, I knew I couldn't just let this go quietly. I wasn't just going to survive their betrayal. I was going to make sure Emily knew her worth, no matter who tried to tear us down. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. My phone was buzzing nonstop, dozens of messages, calls, and notifications. At first, I thought something had happened to one of them, maybe an emergency. But no. When I opened my messages, it was worse than I imagined. My mom had posted a long, dramatic status on Facebook, a masterpiece of emotional manipulation designed to make me look like the villain. She wrote something like, "It breaks my heart when children forget who raised them. Some people twist love into cruelty, even turning innocent family moments into online gossip. I pray for them." Hundreds of likes and sympathy comments flooded in. Old neighbors, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone jumped in to praise her for being a strong mother. And there I was, watching my reputation get torn apart for the simple crime of protecting my daughter's feelings. For the first time, I felt genuine anger, not sadness, not guilt, not confusion, anger. All my life, I'd been cast as the peacekeeper, the one who smoothed things over. But that day, I decided I wasn't going to be quiet anymore. I didn't reply publicly. I didn't defend myself under her post. Instead, I started documenting everything. Every message, every voicemail, every little lie they told. Because if they wanted to turn this into a public performance, I was ready to show the real story. Later that week, a mutual friend sent me screenshots of a group chat my siblings had made, a private space where they were mocking me, calling me unstable, dramatic, and obsessed with sympathy. The same people who had borrowed money from me, who had come crying to me for help, were now using me as their entertainment. That night, after putting Emily to bed, I sat in the dark living room scrolling through those screenshots. I don't know if you've ever experienced the exact moment your heart hardens, but that's what happened to me then. I felt it physically, a quiet snap inside. I realized I didn't want revenge out of spite anymore. I wanted closure. So, I decided to stop letting them define my story. I drafted a post of my own, but not one filled with drama or accusation. It was calm, factual, and impossible to twist. To those who keep asking about my daughter's birthday, yes, no one from my side of the family showed up. I've learned that blood doesn't always mean love. But my daughter and I are fine, and we're moving forward surrounded by people who actually care. I hit post and logged off. No names, no details, just the truth. The response was overwhelming. Friends I hadn't talked to in years reached out, sharing their own stories of family betrayal, offering support, and sending love to Emily. I didn't expect it, but it felt healing. Meanwhile, my family exploded. My mom called me 5 times in one night. I didn't answer. Then came the texts, "You're ruining our reputation. You've gone too far. You're sick." But the worst one came from my brother Michael. "Mom says if you don't send the $1,850 she's owed, she's filing a police report." I laughed out loud when I read that. Owed? For what? Apparently, they decided that since my mom had helped raise me and had lent emotional support over the years, she was entitled to compensation. It was so ridiculous, it almost didn't make me angry. Until the knock came on my door 2 days later. Two police officers stood there, polite but uncomfortable. One of them said, "Ma'am, we received a report about a financial dispute. Do you mind explaining your side?" I stared at them, stunned. My mother had actually filed a complaint. I showed them everything, the messages, the threats, the emotional blackmail. They apologized, said they were just doing their job, and left. But that night I broke down. Not because I was scared, but because I couldn't believe my own family would sink so low. Emily found me crying and asked, "Mommy, did you do something bad?" I pulled her close and whispered, "No, baby. Sometimes people just don't know how to love right." That moment changed something deep inside me. I realized I couldn't keep letting my daughter see me crumble every time my family pushed me. I had to show her strength, not pain. So, I did something drastic. I moved, packed up our lives, found a new apartment in a quiet neighborhood near the hospital where I worked, and started fresh.
No contacte, no updates, no apologies.
For the first time, my life was mine. I enrolled Emily in a new school, got involved in her class activities, and made real friends, the kind who didn't see relationships as a transaction. It wasn't easy, but it was real. Months passed. Slowly, the noise from my family died down. The text stopped. The guilt faded. And one morning, as I watched Emily laugh with her new friends at a park, I felt something I hadn't in years. Peace. Real peace. I realized then that closure doesn't always come with apologies or explanations. Sometimes, it comes when you decide the story ends with you. I looked at Emily and thought, this is it. This is the family that matters, but fate has a funny way of circling back when you least expect it. Because just when I thought the past was finally buried, my phone buzzed with an unknown number again, and this time, it wasn't my sister, or my mom, or even Michael. It was a lawyer. And the reason he was calling? My mother had decided to take things even further. The lawyer's message was calm, professional, almost polite, yet the words cut sharper than any argument my mother had hurled at me in years. Your mother has filed a civil claim against you for the alleged debt of $1,850. She expects full payment, or the case will proceed in court. I stared at the screen for what felt like an eternity. My first instinct was to panic. The thought of my daughter being dragged into some absurd legal battle made my chest tighten and my stomach churn. But then I breathed.
Slowly, deeply.
I remembered every lesson I had learned in the past months. Evidence, documentation, boundaries, and above all, strength. I opened a folder on my computer and started assembling everything I had meticulously recorded: screenshots, messages, recordings of phone calls, even my social media posts. Every word they had used against me was now my shield. As I organized the files, I reflected on how twisted this situation had become. My own family had ghosted my daughter's birthday, mocked me, demanded money that was never theirs, and then called the police when I refused. It was absurd, humiliating, and heartbreaking. Yet in some way, it was empowering. I realized that while they had tried to manipulate and control me, all they had given me was clarity. I knew exactly who they were, and I knew what I wanted from this moment onward. Revenge wasn't my goal, not really. My goal was justice, not the kind delivered with gavel and hammer, but the kind that comes from refusing to let toxic people define your life. The day of the court appointment arrived, and I walked in with Emily by my side. She held my hand, looking around nervously, and I squeezed hers, whispering, "We're together, and that's all that matters." My mother and siblings were there, of course, smug, confident, expecting me to crumble under the absurdity of their demands. But when the judge asked for my side, I calmly presented my documentation, my detailed records of communication, and the undeniable proof that no legitimate debt existed. I spoke clearly, without emotion that could be twisted against me, and outlined the reality. My daughter's birthday had been ignored, my mother had demanded money under false pretenses, and the police report was baseless. The courtroom was silent, hanging on every word. After hours that felt like days, the judge made a simple, decisive ruling. The case was dismissed, and no further legal action could be taken by the plaintiff without court-imposed consequences. Relief washed over me like a tidal wave, but even more powerful than relief was the realization that my daughter had witnessed something far more valuable than victory. She had seen resilience, intelligence, and dignity in action. As we walked out of the courtroom, Emily hugged me tightly and whispered, "Mommy, you're the strongest person I know." That simple sentence, pure and heartfelt, outweighed any drama, money, or legal battle my family could throw at me. And in that moment, I knew that no matter what they tried next, we had already won in the ways that truly mattered. After the court decision, life slowly returned to a new rhythm, one free from the constant tension my family had tried to impose. I focused on Emily, her laughter, her small triumphs, and the everyday moments that mattered far more than any demand for money or drama. My phone buzzed occasionally with messages from my mother and siblings, ranging from angry rants to feigned apologies, but I no longer reacted. Instead, I saved those messages, carefully documented every interaction, and silently acknowledged the irony. The very people who had tried to control me had now given me the ultimate gift: clarity and confidence in my own boundaries. Emily thrived, and I felt a deep sense of peace knowing that she would grow up seeing the example of integrity, resilience, and love triumph over manipulation and fear. Sometimes, people ask me if I ever regretted taking a stand or if I wished I had just paid the money to avoid conflict. My answer is always the same: no. The lessons learned, the strength gained, and the dignity preserved were worth far more than any sum they could have demanded. Every laugh Emily shared, every milestone we celebrated, and every quiet evening free from tension was a testament to that choice. Life didn't just continue after the chaos. It flourished, brighter and more vivid than I could have imagined. And through it all, I realized that justice isn't always loud or public. Sometimes, it's the quiet triumph of protecting what truly matters. So, I want to ask you, viewers, have you ever stood your ground against family or loved ones who tried to manipulate or control you? How did it feel, and what did you learn? Drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and how you'd rate this story. And if you found inspiration or strength in our journey, don't forget to subscribe to Outstanding Stories, because everyone deserves to see that courage, love, and integrity can triumph, even in the face of the closest betrayals.